Naderi and Yusuf Chamiti have looked dynamite together. I mean, think about the Hearts game where Chamiti gets a hat-trick, and it was, Naderi's movement and his sort of selflessness off the ball, and his selflessness, he's making runs and dragging players away, dragging defenders away, making space for Chamiti that worked so well for Rangers. I thought they were great for 45 minutes in that first Old Firm game. But there are times where they do just seem to get bogged down. I mean, obviously, Rohl likened Naderi to, Thomas Muller when he first came in. And now I'm starting to see what he means, in the sense that he's a centre-forward, doesn't really play like a centre-forward.
Yeah.
He does most of his work outside the box, running channels, scrapping with defenders, and yeah, I mean, as I say, it can, when Chamiti's at it, make room for him to score. But when Chamiti, as we know, who does blow hot and cold, isn't at it, then it just seems that they're doing a lot of graft in areas where they're not really going to be dangerous. I mean, I saw somebody online saying that Naderi had 4 shots in goal at the weekend. I must admit, I'm stunned by that, because I can't, none of them sort of spring to mind. For me, he's early on, his first couple of appearances, he seemed to be a real centre-forward that wanted to operate in between the sticks. I mean, I know it was only Queen's Park and he obviously got a hat-trick that day, but I can just remember so many chances getting flashed across the near post, and he was always there. But that was when he was a guy playing up front. I kind of feel like he's had to take a sort of secondary role to Chamiti, and I just don't think Chamiti is maybe, obviously we spoke about it so many times, he's not good enough, or he's not reliable enough, the guy that's hogging the sort of limelight up front. I mean, as a party that maybe thinks you'd like to see Naderi given a shot up front on his own, to see if he can be the guy that can be the leading man, if he's not having to sort of sacrifice himself and do the dirty work for Chamiti, if he can be the guy and have somebody else making the kind of runs and have him where you want him to be in the sort of 6-yard box.
Potentially, Andy, I do think the system and the way they're playing will change in the next few weeks. I might be totally wrong, but you're totally right about Naderi. No, in that 4-2-2-2 or 4-4-2 system, Naderi's the guy who always has to drop in. You're playing against a team with a 3. So even when Celtic came to Ibrox, if you watched them, as soon as Celtic get the ball, he just dropped into Rio Hatate. He was basically like one of Rangers' 3 midfielders. Now, that's not what we really expected from him. I agree with you. I expected this all-action centre-forward to be sniffing out chances in the box, and bullying people in the box. And you're right, those first couple of games, the Hearts game, the first half against Celtic, I thought that's the way it was going to be. And the real shame for me in terms of the actual front 2 is that I just feel as if the last couple of games they've played, they've been totally detached from each other. They've not played as a pairing, as a strike force. I looked at the 2 of them on Sunday. It just felt as if they were playing their own game. No, there was no link up between them at all. There didn't even seem to be that much kind of communication between them. Me thinking that they're great strike pairings that Rangers have had, historically. I mean, obviously going way back when I was growing up, Taylor McCoist and Hateley's and Mo Johnsons, and even further on, like Purcell and Novo and people like that. Do you know what I mean? There was always that Boyd and Miller. There was always that kind of chemistry between 2 of them working together. I just didn't get that sense at the weekend. It's been like that for a couple of games, and I agree. I think Naderi, there's no doubt he's doing a job for the team. There's no doubt he's a grafter. I mean, he looked shattered again on Sunday with the amount of running he had to do. But I just think Danny Rohl's going to need to decide. No, I don't think it helps Naderi to be this hybrid forward where 1 minute he's in the box trying to be a centre forward, and the next he's trying to cover a defensive midfielder to give you more, an extra body in the middle of the park. I think if you go 4-4-2, you need to get the 2 of them in the box working together and causing havoc. And if you don't, as you touched on there, I think you need to tweak the system. And I mentioned obviously Connor Barron coming back. at the weekend, and we know Rohl likes Barron. I just wonder in the next couple of weeks, because let's face it, I mean, Skov Olsen is contributing next to nothing, if we're being honest. He was dropped at the weekend. Gassama got his chance. Again, Gassama was poor in the game. Again, he looked like a guy whose best work might come off the bench rather than starting. So getting somebody in that right-hand side has been an issue, or is an issue for Rangers. And I just wonder, will Rohl revert back to getting three in midfield? No, if that's Barron, Chukwani, Raskin, for instance. Diomande obviously comes into the equation. I suppose you could argue Asgard as well. No, might come into his thinking. But just getting that shape again. And then it's what he does ahead of that. Can he play Mikey Moore as a number 10 more centrally, where a lot of fans think he can affect the game a lot more, and still have the two up front as a pair? Or, because of the job we've seen Naderi doing the last few weeks, could you just ask Naderi to play off one of the sides, whether that's left or right, and it just becomes that kind of 4-3-3 again, with the two kind of wide players getting a bit of licence, obviously, to come inside. So I definitely think there'll be tweaks in the next couple of weeks, because it's not quite working. And obviously part of the reason it's not working is like a Skov Olsen or a Gassama that not quite producing. And also, as I say, I think you're losing a bit for Naderi's game. But the forward players need to up their game in this run-in. I mean, 8 games to go. Rangers are going to need some people to step up and score big goals. And Naderi, whether he likes it or not, 22, is under a bit of pressure, because, as you say, he's been signed for $4.5 million. He's only got 2 goals to his name against Queen's Park. I mean, that's it. And that has to change. I mean, we know about Sharmiti. He blows so hot and cold. He's brilliant one week against Hearts or Celtic, and then hopeless the next week. But Naderi's a guy Rangers push the boat out for to get them goals and try and get them over the line in this title race. So he's got to start scoring. But I do feel for him slightly that he's been used in this role where I don't think we're really maximising his strengths in the box in terms of his goal scoring ability.